Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we will be discussing about the climate history of Earth. Climate, describing the normal state of atmosphere, is probably the most influencing factor governing the distribution of ecology over the Earth. Understanding its dynamics and changes remains the key to unravel the changes in ecosystem over the Earth. We are too enthusiastic about the future changes in ecosystem and our environment, especially so in the present era of climatic change and variability. Modeling of climate remains the only solution to this problem. We need enough scientific data to build robust models which can provide us enough idea or perspective about the future climate. But it is well known that the instrumental records that we have that covers only a small fraction of the climatic history. So, it will not be able to provide us enough data to build robust models for predicting future climate. Hence, we need to study the climatic history of Earth, which can provide us continuous, longer and scientific data to model the future climate of Earth in a convincing and a scientific way. After completion of this module, we will get an overview of the past climate of Earth. We will be able to know different methods for conducting these studies and what were the causes associated with these changes in climate during the past, and ultimately we will be able to appreciate the differences between the present and past changes in climate. The whole module is broadly grouped into these categories. At first, we will introduce to the paleoclimatology, then the geological time scale, what will be the different sources of information for paleoclimatologic research, then we will come to methods for paleoclimatologic dating. Ultimately, what are the causes which have governed these changes in the climate, and we will be concluding with the climatic histories. Paleoclimatology, it is the science dealing with the Earth's climate history over the entire time scale of Earth. It is a multidisciplinary branch of science which deals with the fields like climatology, the study of Earth's present climate system, geological sciences, stratigraphy, that is a branch of geology concerned with the order and relative position of strata and their relationship to the geological time scale, geochemistry, glaciology, as well as the newer subdisciplines like ice core, paleoatmospheric studies, dendroclimatology, that is the study of tree rings, and scleroclimatology, which deals with tropical corals. Apart from all these, organic remains and biological processes play a major role both in the reconstruction of past climates and in regulating Earth's climate. The geologic time scale is a system of chronological dating that relates geological strata, that is stratigraphy, to time and is used by geologists, paleontologists and other earth scientists to describe the timing and relationship of events that have occurred during Earth's history. It is mainly grouped into eon, era, period, epoch and age. A geologic era is a subdivision of geologic time that divides an eon into smaller units of time. The geologic period is one of the several subdivisions of geologic time enabling cross-referencing of rocks and geologic events from place to place. An epoch is a subdivision of geologic timescale that is longer than an age but shorter than a period. The current epoch is Holocene epoch of Quaternary period. Rock layers deposited during an epoch are called as series. Most of the time we discuss about the climate of Cenozoic, the last 66 million years of earth history, especially the past 5 million years, that is Pliocene and Quaternary history. The Paleozoic era of Phanerozoic eon dates back to about 570 million years ago, before which there was Precambrian eon. What are the different sources of information for paleoclimatologic research? Evidences of past climate conditions are commonly stored in natural archives like marine, loess, ice cores, cave deposits, subfossil biological materials and geomorphological features like glacial deposits, erosional features, paleosols and periglacial phenomenon. These provide an indirect indicators or proxies of past climatic conditions. By definition, the proxy records of climate contain a climatic signal. That signal may be relatively weak, embedded in a great deal of extraneous noises arising from the effects of non-climatic influences. Hence, for extraction of paleoclimatic information, these proxy data, the record must first be interpreted or calibrated. Dendroclimatic studies, for example, have benefited from a wealth of research into climate tree growth relationship, which have enabled dendroclimatic models to be based on sound ecological principles. Significant advances have also been made in paleontological researches by improvement in our understanding of the relationship between modern climate and modern pollen grain. Each line of evidences differ according to their spatial coverage, the period to which it pertains and its ability to resolve events accurately in time. Like marine sediments, terrestrial sediments and glaciological sediments. For example, ocean sediments are potentially available in 70% of the earth's surface and may provide continuous proxy records of climate spanning millions of years. However, these records are often difficult to date accurately. Commonly, there is a dating uncertainty of plus minus 1% of a sample's true age, that is, the absolute magnitude of the uncertainty increases with the sample's age. These are the sources of information for biological and historical data. Tree rings, pollen grains, diatoms, insects, corals, plant macrofossils are the main biological information sources. However, tree rings for much of the continental land masses can be accurately dated to an individual year and may provide continuous record of more than 1,000 years in duration. With a minimum sampling interval of 1 year, they provide primarily high frequency, short term climatologic informations. These are the different methods for paleoclimatic dating. Accurate dating remains the matter of fundamental importance to paleoclimatic research. Without reliable estimates of the age of the event in the past, it is impossible to investigate if they occurred synchronously or if certain events led to lagged others. Neither it is possible to accurately assess the rate at which past environmental changes occurred. The commonly used methods are here: It is equally important to know the assumptions and limitations of all the dating procedure used to understood, so that a realistic interpretation of the date obtained can be made. The basic categories of paleoclimatic dating are radioisotopic, which are based on the rate of atomic disintegration in a sample or its surrounding environment; paleomagnetic methods, which rely on the past reversal of Earth's magnetic field and their effect on a sample; organic and inorganic chemical methods, which are based on time dependent chemical changes in the sample; and biological methods, which are based on growth of an organism to date the substrate on which it was found. Depending on the time of period, different dating methods will be more suitable than others. Like severally naturally occurring unstable isotopes of certain elements are frequently used to determine the age of climate related information. The age of geological material can be computed from the ratio of parent to daughter isotopes using the radioisotope's half life, the time it takes for half the original matter of atom to decay. The radioactive isotopes produced through cosmogenic bombardment of Earth's atmosphere are one of the key dating tools in paleoclimatology. The three most important cosmogenic isotopes are those of element carbon, 14 carbon, beryllium, 10 beryllium, and chlorine, 36 chlorine. Here is the decay series of carbon. The 14 carbon atoms form carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide molecules and eventually are taken up by the global carbon cycle through various pathways, including biological routes such as photosynthesis, precipitation by carbonate secreting organisms, and incorporation into other organic forms. Biogenic material is often the source of radiocarbon dating, which is the most widely used method to date climate back to 40,000 years ago. From present time, organisms take up 14 carbon to 12 carbon in a proportion to the ratio present in the atmosphere. Upon death, the 14 carbon begins to decay to 14 nitrogen, and the ratio of 14 carbon to 12 carbon in the dated material is used to compute its age relative to 1950 AD using the half life of 5730 years. Uranium series dating involves one of the most important radioactive decay series used in paleoclimatology, the progressive decay of uranium to thorium to lead. This decay series results in the conversion of 238 uranium to 206 lead, which is useful over time scale of 10 million years ago to about 4600 million years ago from the present time. You can see that corals take up uranium from seawater when they build their molasses. It can also be found in molasses, teeths, carbonates, phosphates. Reef building hermatypic corals are best materials for uranium dating, but it should be remembered that the material should contain 100% of their original aragonitic skeleton for proper estimation of their age. If a small percentage of calcitic material would be there, it would suggest that the coral has been altered and the uranium series age might be a suspect. Coming to the paleomagnetic methods. In this method, variation in the Earth's magnetic field recorded by magnetic particles in rocks and sediments are used for the means of stratigraphic correlation. Major reversal of the Earth's magnetic field are now well known, and they have been independently dated in many localities throughout the world. Consequently, what we do is the records of these reversals in sediments are used as time markers or chronostratigraphic horizons. In effect, the reversal is used to date the material by correlation with reversals dated independently elsewhere. In the chemical methods, mostly amino acid analysis of organic samples can be used to assess the age of associated inorganic deposits and also be used to estimate paleo temperatures from organic samples of known age. Assessment of amount of weathering that an inorganic sample has experienced can also be done. They are primarily used to assess the relative age of freshly exposed rock surfaces in episodic deposits such as moraines or till sheets. One of the most widespread and well tested method is obsidian hydration dating, an example of the general group of methods that involve measurement of weathering rinse. Another method involves the chemical fingerprinting of volcanic ashes that often blanket wide areas after a major eruption. Chemical analysis of tephra deposit. Tephra means the rock fragments and particles ejected by a volcanic eruption have also proved to be successful in identifying unique geochemical signatures in ashes of different ages. Where the age of a tephra layer has been independently determined, the ash may be used as a chronostratigraphic marker to date the associated deposits and to correlate events over the wide area. Coming to the biological dating methods. Biological dating methods generally use the size of an individual species of plant as an index of the age of substrate on which it is growing. They may be used to provide minimum age estimates only, since there is inevitably a delay between the time a substrate is exposed and the time it is colonized by plants, particularly if the surface is unstable like ice cored moraines. When the objective is simply establishing a relative age, this method can be used to, as the delay is generally short and not significant over a long period of time. Lichenometry, that is the study of lichens, and dendrochronology, the study of annual growth rings in timber and tree trunks, are widely used in these cases. Now, we will discuss about the different causes of changes in the past climate. The process that cause climate to change are both external and internal to the earth. The term forcing is often used to refer to these processes. Climate forcing mechanisms external to the earth include the solar radiation, changes in earth's orbital characteristics, other extraterrestrial phenomena, and those internal to the earth include volcanic activity, ocean atmosphere coupling, and atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations. Many forcing mechanisms are simultaneously working upon Earth's climate system, and hence it is very challenging to separate the effects of one factor from the other. But solar energy is the predominant source of energy, and it drives much of Earth's climatic system through its influence on atmospheric circulation, evaporation, and precipitation. But all the other processes modify the effects of solar energy. Until recently, many scientists thought that sun's output of solar radiation only varied by a fraction of total percent over many years. However, measurements made by satellites equipped with radiometers in the 1980s and 1990s suggested that the sun's energy output may be more variable than was once thought. Scientists have long tried to link the sunspot to climate change. Sunspots are huge magnetic storms that are seen as dark or cooler surface on the sun's surface. The number and size of sunspot show cyclical patterns reaching a maximum about every 11, 90 and 180 years. These are the major changes due to Earth's orbital characteristics. Milankovitch, a scientist, established the relationship of Earth's orbital characteristics variation with its climate on the basis of mathematical computations. He calculated the amount of solar energy for each latitude for different times of the year and came up with the idea that the summer insolation, not the winter insolation, was the main driving factor for glaciations. Orbital characteristics such as eccentricity, axial tilt and precision are the main variable. Eccentricity, the phenomenon controlling shape of the Earth's orbit around the Sun, changes over time. The orbit gradually changes from being elliptical to being nearly circular and then back to elliptical in a period of about 1 lakh years. Axial tilt or obliquity is the inclination of Earth relative to its plane of travel about the Sun, and it is the main reason of seasons to occur in our Earth. The Earth wobbles in space, so it tilts changes between about 22 and 24.5 degrees during the last 15 million years with a cyclic period of about 40,000 years. The current value of obliquity is about 23.440 and it is decreasing. Precision originates from the fact that as the Earth rotates on its polar axis, it wobbles like a spinning top, changing the orbital timing of the equinoxes and solstices. The effect is also known as the precession of equinoxes. The precession of equinoxes has a cycle of approximately 23,000 years. Apart from the external factors, there are several internal factors which may have contributed in the changes of Earth's climate. Volcanic activity is an important natural cause of climate variations because tracer constituents of volcanic origin impact the atmospheric chemical composition and optical properties. Several other factors like plate movements of the Earth which govern the mountain building and ocean volume, changes in ice sheet and sea ice along with its feedback such as albedo alteration and ocean atmospheric feedbacks also play important role. Biospheric, atmospheric gas exchanges and several anthropogenic impacts recently in the form of increased concentration of carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrocarbons, tropospheric nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, sulfate aerosols are proved to be significantly contributing to the changes nowadays. Now, we will be discussing about the climate history and with emphasis in evolution of the Earth's atmosphere. Earth has been ever evolving and dynamic. The same is true to its atmosphere or its normal state, that is climate. The atmosphere of our Earth, which was presently seen, have been evolved over billions of years mainly through three era of stages. The primitive or first atmosphere. Earth is believed to have formed near about 5 billion years ago. In the first 5 million years, a dense atmospheric emerged from the vapor and gases that were expelled during degassing of the planet's interior. These gases may have consisted of hydrogen, water vapor, methane and carbon dioxides. Prior to 3.5 billion years ago, the atmosphere probably consisted of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, water, nitrogen and hydrogen. Then comes reducing or second atmosphere. The hydrosphere was formed about 4 billion years ago from the condensation of water vapor resulting in oceans of water in which sedimentation occurred. The most important feature of the ancient environment was the absence of free oxygen. Evidence of such an anaerobic reducing atmosphere is still hidden in early rock formations which contains many elements such as iron, uranium in their reduced states. Elements in this state are not found in the rocks of mid Precambrian and younger ages less than 3 billion years old. Ultimately, the present day or oxidizing atmosphere evolved near about 2.5 billion years ago. Early aquatic organisms called blue-green algae at that time started using energy from the sun to split molecules of water and carbon dioxide and combine them into organic compounds and molecular oxygen. This solar energy conversion process is also known as photosynthesis. Then oxygen started accumulating in the atmosphere. High in the atmosphere, some oxygen molecules absorbed energy from the sun's ultraviolet ray and split to form single oxygen atoms. These atoms combining with the remaining oxygen to form ozone molecules, which are very effective at absorbing UV rays. The thin layer of ozone that surrounded Earth acted as a shield protecting the planet from irradiation by UV light. Prior to this period, life was restricted to the ocean. Presence of ozone enabled organisms to develop and live on the land. Ozone played a significant role in the evolution of life on Earth and allows life as we presently know it to exist. With the emergence of higher life forms and land, plants added to the atmospheric O2 while animals used it up for breathing and the oxygen level stabilized around 21% as we know today. Scientific evidence indicate that through the past 2 billion years ago, Earth's climate has altered from a cool or ice house to warm or hot house or greenhouse condition. During warm or greenhouse condition, there is little if any permanent ice on either of the pole. Warm temperature climates are found at high latitudes, whereas in cool or ice house times, global climate is cool enough to support large ice sheets at one or both of the poles. Earth's climate has transitioned between these two categories only a few times in the past. The most recent transition occurred during the Cenozoic era. To put the whole picture into perspective, In the Earth's climate, it is necessary to depict the variation in climatic parameters throughout the discussed period. A combination of the records pertaining to the temperature of Earth during its history is presented here. The temperature depicted is qualitatively compared to 1960 to 1990 average and plotted reversely from the present time. Now we will be discussing about the climate history of Precambrian eon. The Precambrian time accounts for about 80% of the Earth's history and it is called as the age of early life. Climate varied widely during different periods of Precambrian. Shallow seas like today's Caribbean covered over the early continents. During warm climates, mats or molds of algae called stromatolites grew in these shallow seas. Shark Bay in Australia is famous for modern stromatolites. These time had at least two and possibly more major glaciations. These glaciations are significantly more severe than the ice ages of Phanerozoic eon. Because this ice age terminated only slightly before the rapid diversification of the life during the Cambrian explosion, it has been proposed that the ice age created during this period created the conditions favorable for the evolution of life. In the Phanerozoic eon, it covers the last 542 million years, encompasses almost the entire time of origination of complex multicellular life on the earth. This has more generally been a period of fluctuating temperatures between ice ages such as the current Holocene epoch and climate optima similar to what occurred in the Cretaceous. In between these cold periods, warmer conditions were present and often referred to as the climatic optima. However, it has been difficult to determine whether these warmer intervals were actually hotter or colder than what occurred during the Cretaceous optima. During the Paleozoic era, it was relatively cool during these periods. It is also known as the age of fishes or amphibians. In this time, North America was located near the equator and experienced generally warm climates. Shallow seas advanced and retreated over vast areas of North America, depositing immense amounts of limestone and other marine sediments. These sediments contain a fantastic fossil record of evolving sea life from ubiquitous trilobites to vertebrates. Vertebrates first evolved in the oceans. Land plants and animals first appeared about 350 million years ago. Mesozoic era climates were much warmer than today. It is called the age of reptiles. These were the times when dinosaurs lived on the earth. Carbon dioxide was likely many times higher than today, contributing to a greenhouse effect. During the early part of the Mesozoic, all the earth's continents were assembled into a supercontinent called Pangaea. Pangaea began to break apart during the Mesozoic and the continent began moving towards their present locations. Lush forests including newly evolved flowering plants, that is angiosperms, blanketed much of North America. During the latter portion of the Mesozoic era, that is Cretaceous period, from 66 to 144 million years ago, average global temperature reached its highest level during the last 200 million years. This is likely to be the result of a favorable configuration of the continents during this period that allowed for improved circulation in the ocean and discouraged the formation of large scale ice sheets. This era is also known as Age of the Mammals. The early Cenozoic era was a time of greenhouse climate like those which dinosaurs experienced. By 34 million years ago, permanent ice sheets were present in the South Pole, ushering in icehouse condition. Climate started warming during the Miocene as mammal population reached their greatest diversity. Climate then cooled again. In North America, the lush greenhouse fossil forests were replaced by open grasslands. Grassland ecosystems are better suited to a cooler, drier icehouse climate. By 2 million years ago, Earth's climate was cold enough to support large ice sheets on both the poles. Eocene period has seen a series of abrupt thermal spikes lasting for a few hundred years. The most pronounced of these, the Pleistocene-Eocene thermal maxima. These are usually interpreted as caused by abrupt releases of methane from clathrates, that is the frozen methane ice that accumulate at the bottom of the ocean. During this period, the global mean temperature was as high as 23 degrees centigrade in contrast to the global average temperature of today, which is just 15 degrees centigrade. Geologists and paleontologists think that during much of the Pliocene and early Eocene, the poles were free of ice caps and palm trees and crocodiles lived above the Arctic Circle. Last 2 million years have also seen glaciation and interglacial cycles within a gradually deepening ice age. Currently, the Earth is in an interglacial period beginning about 20,000 years ago. Such cycles ranged like 21, 41 and 100,000 years. These were mainly governed by predictable changes in Earth orbital changes known as Milankovitch cycle. Ultimately, from the above discussion, we can understand that many factors which are external and internal to the Earth have caused changes in the Earth's climate. These factors are mainly grouped into two categories: gradual factors such as changes in the Earth's orbital characteristics and plate tectonics. These take over a long period of time, but we should remember that these changes are often much stronger than those of anthropogenic factors. And sudden factors. Sudden factors are like supernova explosion or asteroid impacts, which can have cascading effect on our civilization. Solar radiation, changes in solar radiation, volcanic eruption and anthropogenic activities are also sudden type of factors. It is seen that alike the present day climate change, the past climate change was also linked with increase in greenhouse gas concentration of the atmosphere. But we should remember that the changes in greenhouse gas in the past were mainly linked with natural causes, where the present day change is mainly linked with anthropogenic factors. All these factors cumulatively act in tandem to determine the Earth's climate in a particular point of time. At the end, we can say that from the prehistoric time, there has been changes in the climate. But in the prehistoric time, it was mainly governed by natural causes. As anthropogenic causes were not present, the changes in climate in the prehistoric time could easily be linked with different natural factors with very little difficulty. But in today's situation, where natural causes along with anthropogenic causes are working in tandem, the separation of factor remains a matter of concern. In the present condition, it is from evidences, it is clear that the anthropogenic causes are dominating and they are directing the changes in the present climate. Thank you.